Hi everyone and welcome to this Fantasy Art Friday video. In this video I'm going to be working on a drawing of a water dragon. I love working on dragon drawings and with the fire, the ice and the earth dragons that I've worked on before, it's been extremely fun to think about how the environment would affect their design and the features they have. For the initial sketch of this drawing, I started with my mechanical pencil, and then moving on to the pen outlines, I used a Pigma Micron 05 for the thicker outlines, and then where in the finer lines that I wanted more control over the line work, I was using a Copic Multiliner SP 0.03mm. In terms of the design, with this being a water dragon, I wanted to imagine it having the features of a tropical fish, so with long extended fins that extend towards the back of its head, some frilly fin textures and general features that help to give it a more streamlined appearance to help it swim. I just love thinking about the design of these drawings, and that's why these dragon drawings always end up taking so much longer than I expect them to take, just purely because I love thinking about the features I could add, and I spend a lot of time on the initial sketch. And also for this drawing, thinking about the color choices took me a lot longer than I was expecting as well, because there's so many options and I wanted to go along with that tropical idea, adding some really bright, vibrant colors. So in terms of color choices, I had to kind of stop myself from adding too many. Speaking of color, once the outlines were completed, it was time for the coloring. And for the coloring of this drawing, I used Copic Markers, starting off by working on the color of the dragon's face. And I began by adding a couple of layers with a light hydrangea and hydrangea blue. I really liked the warmer tone that they gave to the dragon's face. I started adding some rose red around the outlines of each of the segments of the dragon's face. But after adding it, I really wasn't happy with just changing up the colour so much around the dragon's face, and ended up adding some darker colouring over the top of it with a Prussian blue. And adding that darker colour also gave me the opportunity to use a white Prismacolor pencil to add some outlining and just to help define the shape of each of the segments of the dragon's face. For the colouring of the dragon's eye, I added some cerise and also added some shading around the area with Cool Grey 3 and 5. Then to add highlights to the dragon's eye and to add highlights around its face to create that shiny, wet texture, I used a Uni-Ball Signo Broad white ink pen. For the long extended fins around the dragon's eye that extend towards the back of its head, I added the top layer of colour with pale blue-grey, and then towards the tip of the fins I added light pink. Then to smooth the gradients between those two colours I used a pale heath marker. For the inner sections of those two fins I added a full layer of pale heath, and then to add some warmer tones to that area I added more light pink. For the frilly textured fins behind this one, it took me quite a while to pick a colour for this, but in the end I opted for a first layer of colour with a robin's egg blue, and then over the top of that, to add some darker shading, I used holiday blue. And it looked a bit too flat in that area, so I ended up using some darker colouring with Prussian blue and sky blue. Then to contrast the darker shading around that area, I also added more highlights with the Uni-Ball highlighter pen. Next up, for the sharp spines and the fins on the back of the dragon's head, I wanted to add some really vibrant colour to represent that kind of tropical fish style that I was talking about before. So for the spines I added blue colouring with a mixture of ice blue, sky blue and deep reddish blue. And then for the really vibrant colouring between those spines within the fins, I added a base layer of colour with light pink, and then for some extremely bright colouring around the outside of each of the fins, I used cerise. I also added water dripping from the dragon's face. To colour this, I used pale blue-grey, ice blue and sky blue, and then added highlights with the highlighter pen. On to the next section of this drawing, and that was the dragon's neck. I started with a base layer of colour with sky blue, and then to add some darker tones over the top of that, I used a mixture of deep reddish blue and Prussian blue. adding the Prussian blue between the different sections of the neck to show some shading between those areas. And I left some highlights around the front of the neck I was trying to create a kind of a silvery pinkish tone in this area, so I added some pale heath over the top of that as well. And it was also important to me to add some dark shading towards the top and the bottom of the neck, especially towards the top of the neck, to help show up the highlights around the dragon's face and make that the real focus point. To add some more detailing around the neck, I also used the Uni-Ball highlighter pen to try and create that reflective, shiny surface, and I also used the white Prismacolor pencil for this as well. Also in this drawing, as you can see, I added gills, so this dragon could really live underwater. So I added lots of dark shading in the area, but to show up some of the different sections of the gills, I used a white Prismacolor pencil. In this drawing, I attempted to create an underwater cross-section, really showing the dragon actually coming out of the water. To colour this area, I used a sky blue marker and added details and bubbles with the Uni-Ball highlighter pen. And then for the surface level of the water, I coloured that in with an ice blue marker, and then added the waves with the Uni-Ball highlighter pen as well. For the background scenery, for the closest mountain, I added darker shading with Cool Grey 3 and 5, and then just started fading the shading for the further mountains, so Cool Grey 3 and Cool Grey 1, and then started blending in some colour into the distant mountains with Pale Grape and Pale Heath. I left a bank of clouds completely white and then coloured in the sky with Pale Heath marker as well. Then lastly, for the final details of this drawing, I used the highlighter pen to add some highlights going all the way around the dragon and to add some particle effects. I also used the pure pink marker for this. And after that, this drawing was completed, and it was extremely fun to work on. I love working on these dragon drawings, and the elemental drawings are really fun to imagine how their environment would affect the way they look and the kind of features that I could add. It was just such a fun one to work on, and I'd love to work on more. So if you have any suggestions for future drawings, please let me know in the comments below. Any fantasy art, fan art, or any tutorial suggestions, anything at all is really appreciated. Please let me know what you think of this drawing in the comments below. If you enjoy videos like this, then make sure you're subscribed, and any likes or shares on this video, they really mean a lot to me. If you want to follow my progress and keep updated with everything I'm working on, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below to check out my Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And once again, thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much for watching this video. It was so much fun to work on, and I can't wait to work on more. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I'll see you all soon.